Welcome to our next episode of Psych Snippets. I'm Dr. Brittany Hayden.
And I'm Dr. Sally Richards.
And we're really excited to introduce our next guest. Her name is Jaclynn Stankus, and she's another one of our amazing doctoral interns. And she's going to talk with us today about the PRIDE skills, which is a part of parent-child interaction therapy. So welcome, Jaclynn.
Thanks. Yeah, so as Dr. Hayden mentioned, my name is Jaclynn Stankus, and I am a doctoral candidate at Duquesne University in Pittsburgh, PA, in the school psychology program. And I'm going to talk about ways to improve your child's behavior within the home setting during this crazy time with the COVID-19 state of emergency, and ways to enhance the parent-child relationship as well. And I'm going to be describing an acronym called PRIDE. And it is from the evidence-based intervention called Parent-Child Interaction Therapy, also known as PCIT. So first, the P. That stands for labeled praise. And what a labeled praise is it praises the child for a behavior that you would like to see increased, but it also lets them know exactly what that behavior was. So an example of this would be, I love how thoroughly you're washing your hands, or I think it's great that you use a tissue when you blow your nose. Or even just playing with siblings, if you're observing your kids playing, I love how gently you're playing with your sibling. Things like that. So it lets the child know exactly what they're doing that you would like to see increased, while it also lets them know that you are paying attention to them. I love these skills because it uses attention as a reinforcer, which I think is extremely doable right now while we're all stuck at home, where parents might not have access to certain reinforcers that they might use during normalcy. So maybe like buying something at the store or going to the park. So we all can provide our attention as a reinforcer.
Jaclynn, why is it important for the praise to be labeled versus non-specific praise?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So a non-specific praise, or something in the PCIT world that we like to call it, is unlabeled praise. So this would be something like good job, great, nice, awesome. And while these words are positive and they are not discouraged by any means, they're not very specific. So they don't let the child know exactly what you're praising them for. So for example, if a kid is washing their hands and you just say, great for what? Like, is it great that they're standing at the sink? Is it great that they're washing their hands? Is it great that they just chose a really nice outfit for the day? They don't know what you're praising them for. So you just want to make sure you're labeling exactly what you would like that you're seeing. Next skill is R, which stands for reflections. And basically what a reflection is you are just repeating back exactly what the child is saying. So you're like a parrot. So if a child says, I'm going to play with the blocks now, you would say, you're going to play with the blocks now. Or if a child says, I miss grandma, you would say, you miss grandma, maybe we should FaceTime her later. And I think this one is really, really great during this specific time in this world that we're living in right now, because I think you can use this to validate feelings for a kiddo. So if a child is feeling upset or sad, you can use a reflection to say, you're feeling sad right now, to provide some sort of normalcy for your child, where they might not have the skill to identify their emotion and just label that for them. Skill is I, and this is similar to reflections, but this is imitation. So instead of reflecting back words, you're going to be imitating action. So if your child is washing their hands, maybe you'll wash their hands right alongside them. Or if they are using a tissue to blow their nose, you might blow your nose too. Or even just in basic play skills, if your child is playing with blocks, you might play with blocks right alongside them. And similar to the other skills, it validates what they're doing. It lets the child know that you are paying attention to them and you like what you're seeing. So some of these behaviors that I'm talking about, like washing your hands, or, maybe if your kids are singing songs while they're washing their hands, or using hand sanitizer all the time, those aren't necessarily normal. So kids don't know these behaviors. They need someone to model them for them. So this is where parents are great agents to do this. So just modeling appropriate behavior and then imitating when your child does engage in these behaviors, it lets them know that, oh, okay, you like this, you're providing attention. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, so they will pick up on this very quickly. The next one is D, and I think this one is the most unnatural or awkward for parents to use. So this stands for behavior descriptions. So basically what you're going to be like is a newscaster. So you're going to be describing what your child is doing, but only the behaviors that you would like to see increased. So if your child is, using the same example, like washing their hands or, using a tissue when they're blowing their nose, you would say, you're washing your hands, you're using a tissue, you're singing happy birthday when you wash your hands. Or even just using a play example, you're putting the baby doll in her bed, or you're putting the green block on top of the red block. You're literally just describing what they're doing. And once again, this lets them know that you are engaged, you're paying attention to them, you like what you see, and that you're present with them.
I think the thing that feels so awkward for parents when they're trying to learn this skill is like essentially what they're doing is they're stating the obvious. And, you equated it to a newscaster. It reminds me of a sportscaster who's giving the play-by-play. They're just describing what is happening right in front of you. And that's not necessarily so important for us as the grown-ups, but that's a really helpful strategy for kids to hear that as well. And it's a way to engage, like you said.
Yes, for sure. And also using this skill keeps kids attentive and focused on what they're doing because you're describing them in the moment. So it's kind of, it's like a sports newscaster. You're describing what they're doing right in the moment, so they're able to focus more on what you're describing. The last letter is E, and this just stands for enthusiasm. So, acting like you're happy to be there when you're engaging with your child when using these skills. This might look different in everybody, and your enthusiasm best, but this might look like a smile shared with your child, or a pat on the back, or maybe a high five, or maybe this just might mean increasing the volume of your voice when you're interacting with your child. But just know that enthusiasm can look different in everybody, and everyone knows themselves the best, and your kids will pick up on what is enthusiastic for you. But just keep in mind to do employ that enthusiasm when you're interacting with your kids, so they know that you are happy to be there and it's not forced that you're using these skills.
Jaclynn, thank you so much for teaching us about pride skills. It really sounds like, a doable intervention, or it's something doable that parents can do even right now. And it sounds like it's going to be especially helpful, especially as we're trying to increase some of those safer behaviors with our kids. One question that I had for you is how would you recommend that parents get started? With this being a brand new way of interacting with kids, would you recommend that they pick a letter and try to gain mastery over that letter? Or would they try to just sprinkle little bits of it throughout the day? Like, how would you recommend that parents get started?
Yeah, it definitely is a brand new way of interacting with your kids. And even for myself, when I learned these skills, it was very weird and awkward at first, but it does become more natural with practice. But just as you said, I would recommend parents who are just, watching this video for their first time and are just learning about these skills to just pick a letter, try to be more mindful about using that letter or that skill throughout the day, and just try to catch your child exhibiting these positive behaviors, such as being cooperative or hand washing or using a tissue when they sneeze, anything you want to see increased. And then just try to have a mental note in your brain to be like, oh, well, I'm going to label praise that behavior. And then when you feel comfortable using that certain skill, move on to the next one. And then eventually, try to put them all together, sprinkle it out throughout the day.
So Jaclynn, if parents are interested in the pride skills and parent-child interaction therapy, what are some situations where that might be appropriate for a family?
Yeah, so PCIT is it's mostly used with kids who are younger, so children who are ages 2 to 7, and it's mostly for kids who are exhibiting disruptive behaviors or have difficulty complying with directives. So if your child maybe is aggressive or verbally or physically, or just has difficulty listening, PCIT would be a very helpful treatment for both the parent and child, because it really does focus on those pride skills, as I just went over, and enhancing the parent-child relationship, which uses their attention as a reinforcer. And then there's actually a second phase, the PCIT, which implements a very consistent consequence procedure that parents can take with them at home to use as well.
I think it's worth pointing out that The Sarah Reed Outpatient Department offers PCIT or parent-child interaction therapy. So if you think that might be something that's beneficial, could be beneficial for you or your children, make sure to give us a call.
Thank you for joining us once again for Psych Snippets. We hope that the information provided to you is going to help you during this time. And we also, as always, encourage you to leave us some comments if there's anything you'd like us to cover. Stay safe out there.
Take care of yourselves and each other. And thanks, Jaclynn.
Thank you, Jaclynn.
Thanks.